Hello and welcome, Exiles, to a lesson in you can always learn something new in Path of Exile. Myself, specifically, recently, I am working on a Bladefall character. In the past, I've made a Bladefall character 1, 2, and technically 3 times because this Spellblade character, I played Bladefall with a lot, liked it a lot. I put the skill in S tier when I was doing skills with this setup. And I have to say, there's something I never realized about Bladefall that is very important for how much damage the skill deals. So, what did I find out? Well, I have a character in standard that I have with a 100% poison chance. You'll see if you look at the skills, it's 100% chance to poison. I also have on this character the golden rule, which means every poison you inflict reflects back to you. And essentially, I use this character to tell me how many times I'm hitting an enemy. I cast a skill on the enemy. I will get a number of poisons proc to myself, which will appear over here in my debuff bar area. And that will tell me how many times I hit the enemy. Now, the interesting discovery I made about Bladefall is apparently more volleys is a bad thing in terms of hitting more times. Normal Bladefall has 6 volleys with you having it 20 quality. Bladefall of volleys goes up to 7, and Bladefall of impaling has 5 because its quality gives impale effect instead of additional volleys. Granted, I could also use a regular Bladefall with 5 volleys itself. Now, what's the interesting thing that I'm going to show you here is how many hits we get with the 7 volleys versus the 5 volleys versus the 6 volleys. So right now we have on our character Bladefall, regular, 6 volleys. I cast the skill. You'll notice we hit 4 times. And this is going to be pretty consistent. Something about the hits is dependent on like how far you are from the enemy, but if I don't move at all, it's going to pretty much give me the same amount of hits every single time. 4 hits with a regular Bladefall. Now notice something interesting. If I add in Bladefall of volleys, which has 7 volleys, look how many hits I get. 3 hits. I got additional volleys, but my hit count went down. And then interestingly enough, let's go to regular Bladefall with no quality, so it has 5 volleys, and let's look at the hit count. I got 7 hits. 7 versus 4. That's a really, really big difference. And as far as I can tell, this has to do with how they have coded additional volleys to be factored in. I'm guessing as they vector in more volleys, they give more spacing between the volleys while keeping them the same area, so it's less likely that multiple volleys will hit the same target. Something like that. I don't know for sure. But the funny thing about this is I've made Bladefall 1, 2, 3 other times, and every single time I made Bladefall, I 20 quality'd it. I went for the additional volley, and little did I know, I was losing what appears to be close to half my damage, because if I have the 20 quality with these 6 volleys, the difference is 7 versus 4, which is, 75% more damage. That's a big freaking deal. Now, granted, this hit count can change a little bit depending on like how far you are from the enemy. Like if we space out a little bit more, maybe we can get, like right now I'm getting 3 hits on regular Bladefall. Let's try that again, see if it gets 3 hits again. 3 hits. There's a little bit of a weird spacing depending on how far you are from the enemy, and then we'll try the 5 volleys just for comparison here. 3 hits versus, and now we are getting 6 hits. So there's a bit of variance, and it's dependent, as far as I can tell, how far you are from the boss you're targeting. Like that distance somehow affects the waves at which the volleys come down and affects how many overlaps you actually get. But hopefully this is displaying a very interesting factor, which is apparently additional volleys is a very bad thing for your single target on Bladefall, especially if you're doing Cascade. Now, it doesn't matter as much if you're doing like no Cascade, for example. If I just have 5 volleys here, look, I get 2 hits. And if I go swap to Bladefall of volleys with 7 volleys, and boom, we get 2 hits. So it doesn't really matter as much for if you're just using Bladefall at a baseline. But as for once you go to Cascade and other stuff like that, the additional volleys actually hurt your DPS a lot for how many hits you get. And I think that's a very profoundly odd thing that you wouldn't expect, and something I didn't expect, and that's what I get for never testing it. Now that I have a character set up and I'm testing these things, these are things that I'm going to know when I go to test how many hits I'm getting on a character, get an accurate idea of what kind of DPS a certain skill can deal. Now, another funny factor I would like to also add into this little preview is, you know how everybody tells you like, oh, you're trying to overlap a bunch of hits, maybe you should go Conk Effect and Intensify and shrink it down as much as possible, or don't invest into AoE because you're going to start breaking your overlaps. Well, for the most part, from what I can tell, that isn't necessarily very true. If I go ahead and I add in Intensify and the let's use the 5 volleys for example. We'll start here. if I go and add in, first off, we are at a baseline 6 hits. If I go and add in Conk Effect and Intensify, and let's say we go ramp over here, 1, 2, 3, 4, we're 4 intensity stacks, and I reposition, so that's going to break the test a little bit. But you'll notice we get 7 hits. We did reposition, so let me see if I get 7 hits regardless of that real quick. I didn't mean to cast and move. Okay, no. You see we just got 8 hits. Are we going to get 8 hits? Oh, well, I'm already proving my point whether it's intentional or not, but let's go ahead and do this so my character doesn't move this time. We'll stack up the intensity, and then we'll go and hit this enemy, and you'll see 7 hits. So you see we shrink down our AoE. We're trying to make it in a very, like, condensed area, and we're not actually improving our overlapping hits, like, at all. From what I've noticed is sometimes it gives you 1 extra hit, and apparently in this test right here, it's actually losing us a hit compared to the non-conk effect. So that's another, I guess, myth that I believed in, and it's applicable for certain things and it's not applicable for other things. In Bladefall, the example here, the conk effect shrinking down the AoE doesn't really help. Let's go ahead and increase the AoE, see what that gets us. That gets us 7 hits, so we lost a hit there versus the 8 hits. This just, we're perfectly positioned for 8 hits. From my testing, normally we get around 7 hits usually in most different positions, but it can vary a little bit. But the point I'm trying to make is there were 2 things I believed going into this character. Bladefall, additional volleys, I thought would be a good thing. It is not. It hurts your damage significantly. And number 2, shrinking the AoE to get extra hits all on the same target doesn't really work unless you're talking insane reduction in AoE. Like, I would assume if we did 99% reduced AoE in every single projectile was hitting on 1 location, that would work for extra shotgun hits, but that requires a large investment in reduction AoE like a simplex, and then it bricks your ability to clear almost entirely. So hopefully this was a cool little example of something that you wouldn't really think works a certain way, and it actually does. Bladefall fooled me significantly in thinking that Blade +1 volley was a good thing. As far as I can tell, it really only helps clear a little bit because it's, you know, gives you more AoE coverage, but it does in fact break your damage, weirdly enough. Anyways, that's all for today. I'm working on a Cast and Crit Perfect Agony Assassin, which I'll be making on a video on hopefully tomorrow. And I just gotta say, you know, you can always learn something in PoE. No matter how many times you make a character, no matter how many times you do whatever it is, there's always stuff you don't know or work in ways that you maybe don't expect. So hopefully this is a little fun video for you guys. As always, thanks for watching. Take care, Exiles, and peace out. Have a good one.